12 years. 12 entire years have passed since what the people of Aurora now refer to as their second night of 1,000 flames, dubbed historically as the Battle for Aurora. It was the day where monsters of matter attacked the city, the day where many lives were taken. Yet, it was also the day where heroes rised up. From those in-universe and out, a few brave souls stood up to not only save their city, but the entire world. Although the damage had been done, the people of Aurora rose from the ashes as one united community. The wake-up call to stand together was immense, but within the 12 years since that day, the city, as well as the world, felt and looked to grow stronger together. It was only 4 years back that the city finally completed its repairs, but it left a new clean coat to all those who lived in it. As for our heroes, some things have definitely changed within the last decade. Alfred and his people stuck around and helped with the main repairs to the city, before ultimately deciding to return back to the land of lunar souls, where they still reside to this very day. Coco, Delilah, Warnog, as well as the Ripples indeed stuck around to help, but soon enough returned the Ophis. A few years later, Coco herself eventually became the next grandmother, having taken the place of a retired Delilah, who had used all of her energy essence to just wield the Blade of Sleek in the battle. Sarv and Tucker both returned to their little bakery, but eventually came to adopt two of the matter beings that fell from the sky. Over time, the people of Aurora came to realize that the spirits began to actually grow into humanoid ghosts, all in different and unique forms. Two of these matter beings became a little turquoise spirit boy with floofy hair, while another fused itself with the maple syrup in the store, creating a human-like matter girl that was, for the lack of a better term, a slime person. Taking their chance at being parents, the two ex-military bakers took the kids under their wings and still raise them now. As for Nock and Cott, the two of them married the following year after the battle. Shortly after, Nock went full on in with his political campaign, while Cott took over the workshop. After a few years of climbing the ranks, Nock managed to win the mayoral election and is now serving a second term. During his career, the little mechanic had location stations established all around the city, improved safety with hidden weapons below the streets, and got the best of the best in terms of law enforcement and damage control. If one was to be honest, Aurora had never been safer, and for once, people actually looked up to a man of power, someone who actually cared about the people. Mayor Rogers, they call him, but he prefers to just be called Nock. As for Void, Jida, Pofnu, Jet, Joby, Gluppy, and of course Jay, well, this is where the next chapter in the story begins. This is Journeys Ahead, the Beyond Trilogy, Part 1, Chapter 1, Your Average Friday, written and narrated by T.S. Pro Art. Slowly opening his eyes to the familiar sound of an alarm clock, the Spark begrudgingly squinted with annoyance before rolling over within his bedsheets. Snapping his eyes closed, the being did his best to drown out the noise, but ultimately succumbed to its mind-numbing sensation. With a tired groan, the Spark rolled himself back over and went to hit the alarm's off switch, smashing his hand first on the desk, then the side of the buzzer, until finally slapping his palm atop the alarm's silencing button. As the noise ceased, the screen's red flashing numbers displayed the time, 6:50 a.m. Morning time again, the Spark thought, as he partially caught his own reflection in the clock's plastic screen. Whitish purple eyes, freckles, blue horns, and a tired stare is all he was able to make out. For this Spark wasn't Void Novason. Rather, it was his son, Jay Voidson. With a mighty yawn, 12-year-old Jay sat upright within his bed and rubbed his oval-shaped eyes in a groggy manner. A baggy white, wee ball shirt rested over his grayish-blue skin, ending in a pair of black shorts that rested over his legs. Jay wasn't really the one for pajamas. He would rather wear anything else when it came to bedtime. Lowering his hands, the Spark took a quick look around his room. The glimmering shine of a late May morning light seeped its way through his blinds, causing him to wince a tad and adjust his vision. The room's walls were painted in a big square checkered pattern, consisting of both light blue and green squares. Below Jay's window stood a light wooden desk, donned with 6 drawers below, holding all his clothes except for his shirts. The closet that held these items in question stood firm beside his doorway, that led out into the nearby hall, leading all the way towards the kitchen and living room. Swinging his legs over the bed, Jay got ready for his morning routine, but stopped upon noticing his family's large kitsune fox, Pofnu, fast asleep at the right side corner of his bed. Leaning back around, Jay smiled and scratched her head, awakening the mythical creature with a sway of wagging tails. "Good morning, Pofnu," Jay expressed in a tired voice as both him and the fox got off the bed and stood upon fluffy white carpet. A small little box-shaped TV sat atop the Spark's desk, having a gaming console and an array of comic books beside it. Jay was an avid reader, especially when it came to superhero characters. Moving posters, along with skateboarding posters, also lined his walls, as well as his own personal drawings. Although only turning 12 3 months ago, Jay was fairly gifted when it came to pencil art. Sketches of flowers, animals, as well as his friends and family had all been drawn by him, and were up due to his mother's insistent love for art. Approaching his drawers, Jay opened them up with a wooden slide and decided upon his clothes for the day. Reaching in, he grabbed underwear and socks, but then decided upon his main clothing options. It was a Friday, the last one before the final week of school. He and his friends were all about to move up in the next floor within Aurora's massive learning center. Essentially, it was going to be high school, and Jay wanted to at least look decent before departing his middle school era. Reaching in, Jay took out a pair of long dark gray pants with 2 orange stripes going down each side. Next, he took a pair of blue leggings to go over the lower half of his pants, akin to his mother's red ones that she would wear from time to time. Turning to his closet, Jay reached in and took hold of a t-shirt that started off orange below, but gently faded into a cream white color. Next, he took out a jacket that he would always wear from time to time. Like his mother, Jay couldn't be bothered by the heat, so jackets were normally his preferred choice, even if it drew some attention in the blazing heat. The jacket that the Sparklet took started off as a dark grayish purple at the lower base, as well as its lower arms, that were then divided by a pair of white stripes that led to a blue backside and shoulders. A cotton white hoodie piece rested behind the jacket's back, that even descended down upon the zipper sides. Satisfied with his outfit choice for the day, Jay turned towards his bedside desk and took hold of 3 more items. First, a necklace that had a green diamond jewel at its end, a gift from his father during his 10th birthday. Then, Jay took hold of a pair of goggles, specifically designed to examine and evaluate situations. It was made from the same tech as Void's battle mask visor, created for if Jay ever found himself in a pickle. He never really wore it, but he always kept it on just in case. Lastly, he knelt down to the desk side and took hold of his shoes, a simple dark blue pair with white rubber bottoms. Huffing with all of his items in hand, Jay rose his foot out to the door's lower half and gently kicked it aside, opening it up for both him and Pofnu. "Go, girl." He gestured with a swaying head, leading to the large fox walking by without a care in the world. With another huff, Jay maneuvered his way into his family cabin hall, passing by Joby's room that was stationed next to his, proceeding to make a beeline into the bathroom. Going over his wash-up routine, Jay quickly took a shower and then began to brush his teeth, eyeing himself in the mirror as he did so. His vibrant blue horns glinted in the bathroom's white light as he scrubbed his dentures from both his left and right until spitting out the paste and smiling at himself to see if he had gotten all the yellow off. A big, missing tooth smile met Jay back in an awkward manner as he stood there with a towel wrapped around his waist. Closing his mouth, the small Spark nodded to himself and instantly dressed himself with a snapping warp in his fingers. Boom. Alright, Jay. May have knocked out that tooth a bit early, but riding that sled was still worth it. Jay muttered to himself, recalling upon how he and a few friends went mudsliding the month prior. To say the least, teeth and wood did not mix. Now fully dressed, Jay brushed himself off and turned to leave the bathroom, smelling the scent of pancakes out the door as he did so. Walking through the hall and into the dining room, Jay took in its morning vibe and smelled to it all. To the right was their living room, built with 2 couches, a TV, front windows, photos and carpets and all. To the left was the dining room. Standing firm within it was a wooden table with 6 chairs, 2 on each long half and 2 solos on the shorter halves. A deer antler chandelier rested above, while the kitchen stood defiantly at the other side. A countertop divided both the dining room and kitchen, while a large black fridge, dishwasher, sink, and stove stood tall in the hazy yellow light. And there, cooking away with buttermilk pancakes, was Jay's father, Void Novason. Void was now wearing his average whites and blues, the same but slightly modified pair since Jay was first born. Shaking his hips and flipping batter with 2 pans alone, Void hummed a tune and cooked on away, looking happier than ever before in his life. "Dad?" Jay asked with a curious head tilt, leaving Void to rotate his head around like an owl in response. "Morning, bud. How'd you sleep?" The older spark asked with his continuous smile, before rotating himself back around like several gears to face his boy. "Pretty good, actually. Probably the best sleep I've had all week." Jay replied with a pleasant shrug on his shoulders, before suddenly feeling the sensation of his mother's kiss atop his head. "Well, I'm glad to hear it, my little star. You're just in time for breakfast." Turning around, Jay met the sight of his mother, who had the comforting stare of an ever-loving presence on display. Reaching out, she rubbed his little head and took a sip of coffee that had been within her other hand. Jida Woods was wearing a casual attire this Friday morning. A simple red sweater with a pair of baggy black pants, whilst even wearing the now fixed amethyst bracelet Void had gifted to her. Jida had even been wearing bunny slippers as well. Walking over, both mother and son took a seat at the table, while Void continued to flip the food upon his pans, even mixing in some strawberries and blueberries upon the sides. "Hey, where's Jed and Joby?" Jay asked as he adjusted himself within his seat. Turning back to her son, Jida placed her coffee down and then looked upwards towards the ceiling, shifting her mouth to the side as she did so. "Jed is helping out your Uncle Nock prepare for his speech later this weekend. As for Joby, well," without warning, the front door to the house bursted open, with Joby barging in with a whole buck over her shoulders. "I got us the deer meat for this month!" she boasted while lifting the now dead animal up with her mere hands. Joby was now 18 years old, taller, stronger, smarter, and above all, braver. Her once little rounded horns had grown to that of sharp and extravagant spikes that were now donned in a 4-way set of golden jewels. A dark, purplish blue, yellow-lined crop-top vest covered her chest, but left both her metallic arms and belly exposed in a bright display of pinks and golds. Shorts mixed with long pants dropped across her fit metal legs, while a maroon holster belt and a pair of yellow boots accompanied the style. A set of double yellow lines went across her right side vest, as well as down the right side pant leg, being mirrored with spark text on the left-hand sides. The one on her vest translated to the word balance, and the one on her leg translating to the word hope, reflecting who she was and what code she stood by, that anyone could change if they were to just try. Oh, well, she was out hunting. Jida finished with an awkward stare as Joby stood defiantly, having a sharp-toothed grin on display. "Hey, awesome work, Sweet Pea. But could you maybe not carry a dead buck into the house?" Void asked with an awkward smile as well. "Alright, fine. Come on, Glups." Joby replied before leaving back out the door, while poor Gluppy dangled from her belt with a look of pure confusion on display. After a short few minutes, Joby returned with Gluppy now upon her shoulder, while Void placed the pancakes on several plates. Whirling around, the older Spark marched his way over and put his morning dishes to all those who were most certainly starving. "Thanks, hun. These look scrumptious." Jida spoke with hunger before kissing her husband on the cheek. "Yeah, count me famished," Joey boasted before digging in without a second thought. Taking a fork and knife, Jay sliced a small chunk of fluff off and proceeded to eat, instantly nodding in approval to his father's meal. This is really good, Dad," he expressed with a small thumbs up before going full in. "I do try. Thank you. Also, last Friday, huh? It must be a relief." Void asked with a smile before nibbling a piece of his breakfast off his fork. "Yeah, I'm so ready for summer, you have no idea. I can't wait to help you guys out with stopping baddies this year." Jay expressed with excitement as he took another bite from his fork. For the last year or so, Jay had slowly gained an interest to help both his mom and dad, as well as his older cousin, in keeping Aurora safe. Within the 12 years after the invasion, a power vacuum of corruption seemed to grow within the darker halves of the city, giving Void and his family somewhat of a rogues gallery. From a man using metal wings to a full-on mad scientist, Void and the rest had been real busy, and Jay always found himself looking up to his family. They weren't just Aurora's heroes, they were his heroes, and he wanted to be right beside them as soon as he could. However, the reaction he would receive wouldn't be the one he had wished for. Slowly stopping mid-munch, Void's face fell to an unsure look as he glanced between both Jida and Joby, who eyed him back. Meanwhile, Pofnu just sat below the table, awaiting for specks of food to drop below. I'm not so sure about that just yet, buddy," Void replied, leaving Jay to raise a confused eyebrow. What do you mean?" he asked, leaving his father to think for a short few seconds. "Well, you're still young, kiddo. Me and your mother, we aren't sure if we're comfortable enough with you tagging along in our adventures just yet. You still need proper training, you know?" Void replied, leaving Jay's happy face to drop in disappointment. "Oh, what? Training?" Jay asked while slumping in his seat. "But I already know the basics. Like, you know, warping, as Mom calls it." Jay then tried the reason before warping into the kitchen, then to the living room, then back to his seat, now glowing with faint blue constellations upon his skin. I can summon Nova runes like you," Jay exclaimed to his father while summoning a pair of purplish blue star rings to his hands. And I can also use both my electricity and fire well too," Jay continued before depleting his runes and igniting his right hand with deep blue fire and his left with deep blue electricity. However, his confidence fell, for his electricity suddenly shot upwards and created a tiny hole in the ceiling. Flinching, everyone winced at the flash of light, but then eyed the now charred open roof that casted a small ray of light upon Jay's food. Okay, maybe not the electricity aspect, but... Smiling with a sigh, Jida raised her hand forward and placed it atop her son's shoulder, tilting her head and giving an almost "we told you so" type expression. "Sweetheart, me and your father know you're capable in some regard, but what we do out there, it requires a lot of experience and training, especially with someone like you, mister," she explained before raising her right hand up to his cheek. "Exactly. Jay, we have no doubt that you want to help people, and that you would be a great ally. But powers like yours without proper training could lead to a lot of problems. Until we, and more importantly you, understand the limits of your capabilities, you'll be busy with studies and making plans with friends." Void finished to his son before giving a smirk that only a father could give. Okay. If that's the case, could we maybe do some training after class today? Jay inquired before finishing off his pancake. Of course, Jay. We'll start off small and work our way up over time. Void replied with his own nod, and then looked to the clock, seeing that it was now 7:30. On another note, you need to get going, kiddo. It's 7:30. Void said aloud, catching Jay's attention. What? Oh, crap, you're right! He bellowed before leaping off his chair and running into the living room. Reaching down, Jay scooped up his book bag that had been resting aside off the ground, and quickly made his way towards the door. Hey, remember to look both ways before crossing the roads, and no talking to strangers! Jada called with a smile while turning in her seat. Hey, he already knows the drill. Just don't be stupid, Squirt! Joby called before silently stuffing the rest of her pancake in her mouth. And have a good day. We love you, buddy. Void ended before he and the others waved to his son. Love you guys too. Bye! Jay exclaimed before sliding his foot around in a circular formation and warped away with a small burst of purple-blue. Ah, crap. You think we hurt his feelings? Joby asked, looking to what she considered as her real mother and father. I hate to say it, but probably. You guys know I don't like telling him off, but he's still just a kid. The last thing I need is him getting hurt out there, you know? Void replied to his niece before looking at Jida. Are you actually going to try and teach him some stuff later? She asked, leaving Void to cross his arms and think. What I can. We all know how special he is. I can only imagine what kind of abilities he could have within. So, it's better to start now than ever. Especially before puberty and the horrors of raising a teenager. Void both accurately but also jokingly said towards the others, while even eyeing Joby, recalling upon her blossoming years. He's part spark and part whatever powers you have inside you, Mom. He could actually be extremely powerful one day. I think we should all try and help him out in one way or another. In our own ways, you know? Joby reasoned before reaching over her shoulder and petting Gluppy. Agreed. He's a good kid, but he still needs to learn like you did, Joby. If he wants to join us one day. Void went on before suddenly feeling his arm vibrate. Raising an eyebrow, Void suddenly whirled his arm around and projected a holographic frame to its top that read the words, Matthew Sankston. Or rather, Commissioner Sankston. The good cop Void had met during the Battle of Aurora had climbed the ropes and was now holding the highest rank in the police force, being the overseer of the other cops and having a large investigator figure title. Thanks to the many foes and villains Void had faced within the 12-year time span, both him and Matthew became very close, and were truly considered as good friends. So to see this call left Void curious as he answered. Hey, Sankston, my good cop, bad cop dynamic buddy. What's got you calling this early on? Void quickly greeted before the words of the commissioner bolted on through.
Void, listen man. You, your wife, whoever else may be available. You guys need to get here at Aurora's prison facility.
Sankston rapidly explained as he sounded to be outside with an audible wind crackle in the mic.
You guys remember Shallow? That enhanced shark you all took down about 4 years ago? Well, he got out and is now driving a prison transport vehicle, carrying 2 other of Aurora's worst.
Sankston exclaimed, leaving Void and the others to stare down in shock. You're joking, right? The Spark asked with a cold breath. Wait. You're saying 3 of Aurora's worst got out and are on some kind of joyride? Jida asked as everyone gathered around Void.
Damn it! They just escaped through the fence! They're making a driving beeline for the city. Just hurry!
Sankston then ended the call, leaving everyone to look at one another with stern eyes. Great. Shallow Shao Kahn and 2 other unknown assholes. On a Friday morning of all things, too. Joby stated before placing Gluppy on the table and stretching her limbs. Shit. Best that we work fast. Kids are walking to school, and that includes ours along with Tucker and Sarv's. Jada retorted before snapping her fingers and summoning a new robe-like suit over her regular clothes, one she had made shortly after Jay's birth. Going over her chest came a space-black robed attire that was laced in orange outlines. Her pants turned into a deep red with orange and red shaded wrappings around it, going down to a dark pair of shoes. Going around the sides of her legs and rear, stretched down a cloaked piece that was made of the same space gray material near the top. Orange stocking-like coverings then wrapped around her hands and arms, while even turning into a cage pattern before ending at the shoulders. A red scarf then went around Jada's neck, along with her guitar and harness. A few belts then clicked around her waist as her skin and clothes illuminated with constellation patterns, signifying that she was ready to fight. "Let's try and get this over with quickly," she stated. Nodding, Void stood and turned, proceeding to fire a star-shaped portal to the prison facility. Together, Void and his two girls leapt through in a worried state, leaving both Pofnu and Gluppy alone in the cabin. Taking his chance, Gluppy slowly began to make his way towards the fridge, while Pofnu watched him with a look of disappointment in her pink eyes. With a purple and blue splash of color, a natural star-shaped portal appeared, with Jay quickly leaping out of it. With 30 minutes to spare, the young spark decided to take his preferred route, a path where he would hopefully encounter some of his friends. Dropping out of his warp portal, Jay landed down on a public stairway rail that rested in between two buildings. Adjusting himself to balance upright, the little spark readied his arms and slid down the metal pipe that went on for a solid 20 feet. "Whoa! Look out below!" he called with a smile, getting the attention of a few adults that were walking by. Gasping, they moved out of the way and gave Jay his chance to leap. Lunging off the rail, the young spark went up into the air and caught himself upon a street sign. Using its ground-embedded rod, Jay swung it around its form before using its leverage to launch himself forward and upon the sidewalk, shocking all those who had been watching. With a quick slide and skip, Jay stood right back upon his feet and continued his trek towards school. Gripping the sides of his backpack straps, the small spark took in a breath and tried not to let his father's words get to him. Although he wanted nothing more than to be by his side, to help and stop bad guys, maybe it would be a good thing to get some training, perhaps some experience if possible. But the length and effort that would take, the prospect alone punched at Jay's gut as he went onwards. "Okay, Jay, don't stress about it. Surely Mom and Dad had the train too. That is, if Father ever tells me how he started off." Jay told himself as the gentle morning light seeped in through the busy morning city. However, that thought alone ate at him as well. His father had told him many stories of his ventures, but never why he started. All he would speak on the topic was that it was how he met his mother. Everything Jay asked, Boy would shy away from it, or say, "You're too young for that kind of story," or something along those lines. There was a lot of things Jay didn't know about his father, but there was a lot he did know as well. "Whatever, I'll learn one day. Right now I gotta get to class," Jay stated to himself before coming across a line of businessmen slowly walking and blocking the way. "Excuse me, coming through," Jay called as he leapt upwards and then began to summon tiny Nova runes below his feet. Going up and over, Jay casted rune after rune to walk above the group, using them at his own little flight of stairs. As Jay traversed above the crowd, he leapt forwards and slid across the pavement with his shoes, using a pair of little heelys that were embedded within their underhalves. "Sorry about that," Jay waved off as the men stared upwards in awe at the now fading runes. The skies around glistened with both blues and oranges, carrying the soft clouds that watched down upon the beautiful city of Aurora. Although Jay was too young to realize it, the once broken halves of the city had finally become one. Everyone's livelihoods had for the most part found an equal footing. As everyone repaired their city, the common consensus was the realization of being one people. It didn't matter anymore whether one was wealthy or poor. They were humans that resided in one big city. Both sides over at the large bridge's ends now held tall skyscrapers as well as smaller homes and shops, an economical balance had been maintained, and life for the most part was good, and Jay could sense that vibe, even if he hadn't been around post-Night of 1,000 Flames.
Jay! Hey! Wait up!
Perking up and looking over his shoulder, the small spark was suddenly taken aback as his best friend leapt forwards and lashed herself upon his back, forcing the spark to carry her piggyback style. Oh! Whoa! Hey, Maple! Jay replied back with a chuckle as the two kids swirled around in a circle before letting go of one another. Maple, be careful. We're next to a road. The second kid called, leaving Jay to eye his two buddies. Maple was a girl the same age as Jay, born the same day as a matter of fact, and the boy next to her the same. They had both started out as two matter droplets that fell from cores before matter, but took their own forms within time. Maple Lewins and Quinn Lewins were their names, the adopted kids of both Sarv and Tucker. Maple was a unique character. Upon descending from the sky, she slipped her way in the Sarvi suites and got herself mixed in with a batch of nearby syrup. When Tucker and Sarv returned home, they found her as a small glob on the counter, but a cute glob at that. Within the 12 years since her birth, Maple had grown into a humanoid slime girl made entirely out of maple syrup and matter. Her skin was murky and transparent, glimmering shades of deep brownish reds with hints of orange in certain lightings. Her head wasn't round, but rather human-shaped with a tiny little nose. Coming out of her head sprouted a gelatin-sculpted warble of hair that dropped around near the back of her neck. However, just merging out as slime as per the rest of her body. Her legs, on the other hand, were equivalent to the structure of rubber hoses, curving at both sides before ending in a plop of goop on the cement that, to everyone's shock, never got sticky or left a trail. Maple could freely touch things without leaving them sticky or soaked. This included her everyday clothes. Around her torso sat a simple red t-shirt with white stripes at the armholes, but held a massive poofy red piece around her neck. To top off these red looks, Maple even had a headband atop her head that sprouted out with a little bow that waved in the wind. Round her legs sat a pair of jean shorts, accompanied by a purse bag that rested over her shoulder. This bag in question had been carrying an array of books. Maple was an avid reader and wanted to be an author one day, something that Jay admired. Quinn, on the other hand, never found himself adapting to an element. He was simply just a goopy turquoise ghost that had a wavy set of hair and big, dopey white eyes. Like Maple, her adopted brother found himself slipping into the bakery as well and was taken in shortly after. Soon enough, he took the form of what is now a common kid in Aurora, being that of a specter. Many of the Matter Specters had found loving homes, but sadly, a good chunk remained in orphanages or foster homes. As sad as that was, Quinn was one of the lucky few, to his relief. The little friendly ghost was wearing a cute red bow tie and held a violin upon his back. The little guy was a musician at heart, which Jay also respected. "What's up, guys? Was wondering when you'd show up." Jay greeted before engaging Maple with a handshake they both shared. Raising their fists forward, Jay started off by bumping his down while Maple bumped hers up. Once hands were knocked, they repeated again, but this time with their roles reversed. Once done, they smashed their knuckles together and made an explosion motion, waving their fingers back while giggling at each other.
Nothing much, Toothless. How about you?
Maple expressed with a smirk as she looked up at Jay, for she had only been a few inches shorter than him. Okay, 1, that nickname is getting way too old. And 2, she's just getting ready for the best summer ever. I have a good feeling about this year. I really do. Jay exclaimed as the trio began to walk together, now eyeing the massive school building in the distance. I hope you're right, Jay. Last summer was so boring. I couldn't even get my tunes right. Quinn mumbled with a quiet voice as he looked to the ground in disappointment.
Well, Quinny, I for one think Jay's 100% correct, yeah?
Suddenly from behind, another one of Jay's friends roller skated herself upon the friend group, going around them like a shark circling its prey. This girl's name was Zenny Berryby, or ZB for short. ZB was a small and slightly chubby pink bear cub with big purple eyes that held the soul of a rebel. The young cub was wearing a white jacket that had a multicolored polka dot pattern. Accompanying it atop her head was a short ball cap, turned around that had its bill facing backwards. ZB also wore a pair of brown shorts that ended with 2 red roller skating shoes. Top off her character, she carried a blue backpack, all while a gum bubble rose from her mouth and popped. The best way to describe her was the class clown. She was reckless, funny, but above all, caring. "Hey ZB, how you doing?" Jay greeted the small pink bear as she scared herself to roll beside the group. "Heya." Mabel greeted in return, all while Quinn waved. "Sup, fellas? Where are the other losers at? They callin' sick or something?" ZB questioned before clicking her heels, causing the wheels below her shoes to lock away and return back to a normal set. "Not sure, but I have a hunch that we'll see them soon enough," Jay expressed as he and his friends crossed one more road and entered the campus of Aurora's Grand School. All around, students from preschool all the way up to senior college students made their way across the greenery front sector. A garden of many flowers and plant life blossomed up from the ground, acting as a beautiful sight for everyone who approached the front doors. Kids and the like rode their bikes, sat at benches, while many more maneuvered around one another just to get inside. With about 50 minutes to spare, Jay and his little group took their time and eventually came across another one of their friends, crouched and taking photos of some flowers. Using her phone camera was a young, bipedal wolf. She had a bright and vibrant purple fur, along with a fluffy tail that swayed back and forth within the summer breeze. A rose flower rested upon her right side ear that matched itself with her yellow button-up dress. Tapping her red shoes together, the young wolf quietly looked to her camera view before suddenly being jumped by ZB, who leapt in with a small roar in front of the lenses. "Brah! What's up, Florence?" she bellowed, scaring the daylights out of the poor wolf. ZB, what the heck?" expressed Florence, who nearly dropped her phone. Catching it mid-air, she caught her breath and turned to look upon the others. Good morning, Florence. Apologies for the wild animal on the loose." Jay jokingly greeted, leaving the purple-furred wolf to roll her crimson-yellow eyes. "Oh, come on, guys. Don't tell me you scared her again." Another voice called from the side, getting everyone to turn their heads. Approaching forward came 2 more members of Jay's friend group, another boy and girl. The girl who had spoken was an interesting figure, having a pink cube-shaped head with a gorgeous set of natural green hair. A vibrant lavender cloak levitated below her head, while 2 floating hands rested upon the sides of where her hips presumably were. A small blue necklace dangled off this floating figure as she stared on with glowing purple eyes, alongside a glinting bean-shaped nose. This girl's name was Leslie Jones, or as everyone called her, Sprinkles, one of the popular girls in their grade. Beside her was a partially deaf kid named Blippi Blumberton, who signed the sentence, "Why does she do this all the time?" Blippi was a chubby kid with bright blue skin and cross-shaped purple eyes. He wore a dashing set of dark blue overalls matched with a light purple shirt, both having been stained with paint. Blippi's shoes were also splashed with these artistic colors, as they curved upwards like that of a Christmas elf's. Atop his head, next to a pair of pointed ears, sat an artist cap, for if his appearance wasn't a dead giveaway, Blippi was an art kid, having met Jay through their shared interest. Smirking, Jay effortlessly signed back using his hands, saying that it was just a friend group tradition at this point, leaving Florence to sigh and pocket her phone. "Har har, really funny, guys. Really funny," she stated before the last member of the group appeared from a tree beside them, dangling by his raccoon tail. "What's funny?" the kid asked, scaring Florence again and sending her leaping beside Jay and the rest. AJ, seriously?" the wolf boasted in defeat as everyone looked upon the dangling blue raccoon who had his pet snake, Schmidt, on his arm. AJ was a theater kid, always making grand entrances whether intentional or not. The small, stubby, bipedal raccoon wore a green striped shirt that ended with a pair of brown shorts and shoes. Around his neck, the kid had actually been wearing a classic superhero mask, the bandana type, that a character like Robin would wear. Dropping down behind his back was a wrinkled red cape that AJ would wear everywhere. The kid had big dreams of becoming an actor one day, and had a vivid imagination, making him a perfect fit within Jay's small group of buddies. Sorry, Florence. Was just practicing for the summer play. Gotta dangle the thangle. That's not a word, is it? Jay asked before he and his pet snake fell into the bushes below. No, I don't think it is. Jay replied with a smile before helping his friend back upon his feet. Now together, everyone outside of Florence nodded with grins as they all shared one unanimous thought. Last Friday.
Okay, looks like we have about 10 minutes. Let's get upstairs before Mr. Wright has another mental break.
Maple suggested while adjusting her purse bag and eyeing the doors. Yeah, sounds like a plan. Quinn muttered before looking at the doors as well.
No promises on my front, yeah?
ZB boasted before clicking her wheels back out and skating for the entrance. ZB, wait up! AJ called before taking the back half of his cape, flushing it out, and running after his friend. Sometimes I question why I hang out with you people. Florence muttered before following suit, having both Blippi and Sprinkles right behind her. Oh, come on, Flo. You know you love us. Sprinkles called, leaving Quinn trailing right after.
Let's get a move on, Dimples.
Maple gestured out towards Jay before giving him a soft shoulder nudge. Dimples? That's a new one. He replied with a raised eyebrow before both him and Maple began to finally walk after the rest.
Sure is, Toothless.
Maple returned, leaving Jay to lower his eyes in disapproval. And just like that, we're back to our regularly scheduled name-calling. He muttered with defeat as they all walked up a large flight of stairs and entered the massive school. Traversing through the school's grand halls, Jay and his little squad passed by both the young and old. Some were going through lockers, while others were rushing to get to class. They passed by the pretty girls, the nerdy teens, the jocks, every school show stereotype one could imagine. Some of these students turned and looked at Jay and Maple's direction, not actively approaching, but silently knowing who they were related to. Void, Jida, along with Sarv and Tucker, they were big names around Aurora now. The once Phantom and Blue Bullet, who stood to fight against the horde of beasts that attacked the city. They were descendants of large figures that Jay so desperately wanted to help out one day. All turning to their rights, the group of kids found their morning room, labeled as Floor 2-Class 5, English. Trotting their way in, the strange collection of friends found their seats and sat with a pleasant attitude. The classroom itself was daubed in cold white floor tiles that looked to have had ash sprinkled upon its paint. These slabs all led themselves up to dim green walls that rested with many learning posters and bookshelves to their desires. Even a long pane glass window stretched at a massive length at the room's left-hand side, overlooking the city streets that whizzed on by with morning traffic. Coming into the classroom as well appeared several more kids, all different from one another, but all having the same mindset. A mindset that their teacher, Mr. Wright, expressed when walking in through the door. Happy last Friday, everyone! Take your seats. A tall, skinny, middle-aged man called, being that of Kot's species, green and vibrant with an upside-down head and all. A neat little dark green vest rested over the teacher's chest that extended down to a pair of jeans and dark shoes. Glasses sat upon his turned oval eyes, but unlike most English teachers, Wright was spry and happy in his position, and all the kids loved him. Wow. To think that I've had this class for the last 4 years. You know, it's almost hard to imagine that you'll all be transitioning into your high school years. I must say, I may just shed a tear. Wright sadly expressed with a small smirk, leaving ZB to speak up in the moment. Even me? She asked, causing the class to giggle in response. Yes, even you, ZB. Dare I say, I may miss our little rivalry we share. Who else is gonna shoot gum at me mid-class? Wright responded, leaving the class to giggle aloud once again. All jokes aside, although the road has been bumpy for a lot of you, I am very proud of what you've all accomplished these past few years. From barely understanding paragraph structures to writing a solid 3-page essay, all with passing grades. It means I've done my job right, and that you're all ready to move on. As everyone listened in to their teacher, Jay found himself doing the same, but suddenly, shifting his attention to something else. Like a chill, the sparklet felt a sensation. A spark-like sensation that sent his skin crawling and constellation patterns to flare. Noticing this, Maple, Florence, and even Blippi curiously turned their heads towards the small spark, all while Mr. Wright went on. Jay, are you okay? Florence asked as she raised an eyebrow to a sudden power shift. Yeah, are you alright? Maple questioned right back as the world around the young spark began to blur, for what felt to be his bond towards his father began to grow and grow, like Void was nearing the school somehow. I don't... Jay whispered back, before AJ suddenly looked towards the window and pointed with a shout. Holy crap! Look at that! Perking up, everyone within the classroom turned their heads towards the window, wondering what exactly AJ was yelling about. Outside, rounding the street corner on the other side of the school, rolled out a massive vehicle. A large, dark gray bus-shaped automobile with 2 other similar carts attached behind it. With a hard screech and tires, the heavy vehicle peeled out and blasted forwards down the road, leftwards to the class that was now standing up. This vehicle came from a place called the Obsidian, Aurora's highest and most secure prison, one designed to hold the worst of the worst. The vehicle was armored with shades of light and darkened grays, divided by neon glowing red lines from in between its panels. This machine was designed to transport convicts from one location to the other, each cart to house several prisoners at once. So to see something as secure as that recklessly driving past a school, it sent a wave of anxiety and fear across the classroom. Then, they all saw him. Giving chase to the vehicle went 2 police cars, an orange glowing motorcycle, a cousin on rocket skates, and a dear old dad blasting above them with a holographic set of blue wings, giving chase to what was clearly a hijacked vehicle. Whoa! Was that your mom and dad? Sprinkle asked the Jay as everyone began to murmur and stare on at the now fading chase. Now, class. Let's let the professionals do their thing. They've got a lot of experience and will surely get that vehicle off the road. There's no need to worry. Mr. Wright expressed, while Jay stared onwards towards the fleeing scene. Experience. Young Spark muttered to himself while looking at his hands and recalling what his father had told him not too long ago. What? Maple asked, standing beside her now curious best friend. Looking over towards her and the rest of his friends, Jay gave an excited smile and flared himself up with a purple and blue glow that got the attention of everyone in the room. This is it! I have a chance to prove myself! He called before turning on his heel and running out the classroom. Wait, what? Jay! Maple called with a raised hand. Dude, where are you going? ZB spouted. Mr. Voidson, where do you think you're... With another flash of blue, Jay warped himself out of the classroom, leaving all of his peers and friends to nervously think. They were aware of Jay's wants to help his family antics, to be a hero. It's all he ever seemed to talk about for the last few years or so. However, just seeing him leave to a situation such as this left a pair of knots in all their stomachs. Oh no! Florence muttered while raising a paw to her mouth. Oh my god, he's gonna get himself killed! Sprinkle sputtered while looking back out the window in dread. Oh dear, I sure hope he knows what he's doing. Quinn whispered as he shivered with a chill. Oh god. Oh my god. Maple softly stated with a look of fear engulfing her shiny red face. With engines roaring and tires screeching, the two police cars, alongside Void, Jida, and Joby, raced after the hijacked transport vehicle. Within the first police car drove Commissioner Sankson with a tense look on display. His dark, now graying hair swayed with each turn, all while his dark shaded jacket rustled at each jerk he turned to the wheel. The cop was tense, panicked, and unsure of what the outcome of this skirmish would bring, but he knew for certain that there was no halting his brakes this time. Within his passenger seat sat a little tarantula tech whiz like hacker by the name of Gustavo. Wearing a stained red APD sweater and a tiny set of dark pants, the little guy looked almost drunk as he scanned through an array of files to see who had exactly escaped, all on his finger-sized computer. Gustavo was an arachnid of skill and stupidity, always talking nonsense, but somehow getting the job done right. He wasn't a cop or an investigator. He was just the guy that was called when needed. And now, he was doing his best to figure out what exactly the convicts' plans were. Judging by the route they had been taking, it was clear that they were trying to reach the city border and drive out into the vast and wide highway system. If so, they could easily disappear through an array of tunnel systems outside the city, leaving the chances at catching them 10 times more difficult. Within the second cruiser were two more officers, the same ones who had tried to stop Jida all those years back, the night where she had met Void. They were older and plumpier, but still the same old pair that now had a frenemy-type relationship with the once called Phantom. As for Jida herself, she was driving a self-made, energized motorcycle, forged and summoned by her cosmic fire. Beside her, with her feet and shoes transformed into hyper-advanced rollerblades, Joby skated along and eyed the quickly evading truck, which recklessly turned and swerved itself through traffic lights and partially upon the city sidewalks. Soaring down, Void landed himself upon Sankson's police vehicle in a kneeling formation. Turning to his left side, the Spark quickly leaned his head over to look at the driver's side window. Lowering his hand, Void knocked on the glass 3 times, and then gestured for Sankson to lower it. Reaching his hand over with a nervous stare, the blue-skinned cop eyed his companion and lowered the window with a tiny rev. "Hey guys, figure out who else we're dealing with?" Void questioned as everyone swerved around another city block corner.
Yes, sir, big man. We obviously got Shallow Shao Kahn, but we also got Keegan Knight, and, uh-oh.
Gustavo expressed before blinking his crossing eyes. "What's uh-oh mean?" Sankson questioned before Gustavo turned back with a look of worry.
The other one is Zagoth,
he revealed, leaving Void to quietly sigh. Great. Big shark, pyromaniac with wings, and giant dark matter creature. What a trio! Void shouted aloud for all to hear before fully returning to the roof of the police cruiser. "Alright gang, we got Shallow, Morpho, and Zagoth in there. As far as we know, our big shark friend is the only one who isn't locked up. We take him down and we stop the transport." Void explained while activating both his arm hooks and a new battle mask. A blue, dome-like helmet that ignited with an ocean glow, while even projecting a pair of white holographic eyes to its screen to match Void's real expressions. "You planning on taking that rotten piece of tuna on your own?" Jida asked with a shout while looking to her husband. "Electricity and water don't mix well, Freckles. It should be a simple task if the other two are still locked up. You and Joby focus on getting civilians out of danger while I do this." Void replied, all while Joby continued to skate on by. "Aye aye, Captain," she called with a salute while Jida simply nodded. Together, the mother and daughter duo revved their engines and blasted on ahead, while Void got ready to make his grand attack. "Alright, Matt," Void asked out before latching his hooks around the massive vehicle's back door. "Brake!" With a nervous huff, Sankson raised his foot and slammed it on the brake pedal, allowing for Void to pull himself back and then quickly release. Launching forwards, the Spark charged his fist up and punched his way into the first cart. Running off adrenaline, Void's immediate plan was to quickly take out Shallow, who had to be at the front of the wheel, and put the large vehicle into a halting stop. However, as he crossed through, the Spark immediately noticed that something was off, very off. At the same time, Jida roared past the vehicle's front, but noticed that nobody was in the driver's seat, except for a pair of tendrils at the wheel. What the hell? She asked, while Void suddenly realized what was wrong. Purple slime. Tons of dark matter purple slime was pulsating around the walls, charging with red electricity that was powering the vehicle's engines. Sagoth? The Spark asked, just as the door to the middle cart opened up to reveal the big fish. Standing with glowing blue eyes was a massive tiger shark with cyan blue skin and a darker triangle pattern going along his back. Wrapped around the animal's body was a gunmetal black robotic suit that had been programmed upon him by another one of Void's foes, a mad scientist by the name of Dr. Notorio. The shark had thick metal arms with double blue fin blades protruding from their elbows. The shark's mechanical body was designed out of inspiration of Void's. Rubber-hosed arms and legs connected to this knockoff metal harness, while a large, clear container of water rested securely upon the shark's back. A pair of tubes connected the clear suction cups latched around the animal's gills, providing him a solid flow of water upon land. Grinning with rows of knife-like teeth, a simple golden tooth glimmered back as the cyborg shark, Shallow, announced his presence, topped off with a fishhook's glint that was lodged within his fin.
Hello, Spark.
Shallow greeted before opening his mouth and blasting a power stream of water from his mouth. By Matira! Void shouted in shock as he was hit by the shark's water blast that had a powerful scale to that of a firefighter's hose. Void! Sangston shouted as a second ambush commenced. It was a trap. Blasting out of the roof of the second cart, a fireball with metal wings rose into the air and suddenly swooped downwards upon Jida, tackling her off her energy bike and blasting high up into the air. Mom! Joey squealed before turning around and seeing her father falling to the road.
Hello, my dear Flame. Long time no see, yeah?
The fireball asked as Jida caught her breath and eyed his appearance. Keegan Knight, or the Morpho as they all called him, was an ex-firefighter turned pyromaniac. Morpho wore a gas mask over his face, glimmering with red eyes and two antennas to match that of butterflies. Around Keegan's body was a blue and orange firefighter suit that had two large flamethrowers upon his arms. Attached to this maniac's back was a gas canister connected to two metal wings that exhausted out a flaming blast that carried the two fire wielders up into the sky. Can't say I missed you, pal! Jida bellowed before exploding the man off with a gust of fiery energy. Now mid-air, Jida summoned a wave of constellations below her feet to help slow her fall, but Morpho was far from done.
Oh, we ain't over yet, dear Candle. The squabble has already begun.
The man behind the mask bellowed before blasting downwards and crashing into Jida, sending the two of them spiraling through the air and down upon city rooftops. Landing hard upon the road, Void spiraled out for a second before shooting his hooks outwards again and latching upon the rear bumper of the massive vehicle. Finding his balance, the Spark quickly got back up upon his feet and slid across the road, burning rubber as he did so. Approaching the now busted down entryway, the large, cyborg shark eyed Void with his cold blue stare and gave a small chuckle. Raising his similarly designed mechanical arms, Shallow grimaced with his pointed teeth and continued with his generous greet.
Novason, my good old chum, how have you been?
The big animal asked, with his gnashing teeth, leaving Void to awkwardly smile below. Shallow! I thought you said you were trying to get better! What happened, man? Void asked back, while doing his best to not slip on his 50-mile-per-hour road slide.
Keyword, Spark. Trying, but it failed. You just gotta accept that not everyone can change.
The shark boasted aloud, with an enhanced speaker attached to his chest, before reaching his arms out and contorting his fingers into small little blasters.
And besides, I prefer this kind of life. A life that doesn't involve you.
Opening fire, bullets of powerful water blasted down towards Void, hitting the road and even popping the tires of the second cop car. With Void flipping out of the way and Sankson swerving to the side, the two evaded the attack before the Spark took a breath and pulled himself back forwards, delivering a powerful kick into the shark. Crashing together, the two of them found themselves landing hard into the middle cart, where tons of dark matter sludge resided, looking to create an apple core shape within the center. Ugh. Whoa, is Zagoff driving this thing? I didn't know they could give licenses to wet clay. Void coughed out while Shallow stood back up with a tail swipe. Dodging, the Spark quickly stood a few feet back as the massive shark scowled in annoyance.
You're really not that funny, you know.
Shallow stated while cracking his metal knuckles. Wow, so sophisticated with your retorts. Really makes my confidence vanish in the thin air. Void expressed with a smirk that only angered Shallow further.
That's it! Your lunch!
With a lunge, the big shark opened his jaws and went to clamp down hard upon Void, but the Spark quickly countered by giving one of Jaida's signature roundhouse kicks that she had taught him. As Shallow spun out from the attack, he quickly turned his tail around and smacked Void against the wall, hitting him against the dark matter slime that attempted to hold him down. Ugh, gross! He whined before Shallow re-emerged with a fist raised to strike. Pulling free from the matter, Void dodged from the punch at a right side angle and returned the attack with a Novaroon strike to Shallow's face, which only aggravated the big fish more. Oh, come on, Shallow! Don't you just want to sit down and listen to more of my jawsome jokes? It's much better than trying to bite my head off. Void stated, while poking the bear, as one would say, that only set the massive cyborg growling and going ballistic and attacking with an animalistic fury. Warping back out into the open, Jay landed upon a nearby rooftop that overlooked the streets of Aurora. Sliding to a stop, the little Spark held an excited grin on his face while catching his breath. He knew he could be of use. He had to prove it to his whole family that he was most certainly capable of fighting alongside them. The reason for logic was out the door in Jay's mind, as adrenaline and excitement completely took hold over his rational thoughts. I'm gonna prove it to you, Dad. I can do this! I don't need training. Who needs training when you can just teleport and shoot fire? Jay expressed to himself as he pulled out his goggles and securely placed them over his eyes. As it solidified, the little Spark's vision turned to that of an enhanced visor's view. His sight became clearer than a washed car, as many display options from timestamps, an upper compass, and even an identity reader appeared before view, all while having a slight greenish tint. Turning out to look back at the road below, Jay watched as the chase drove on by. Joby was in front, portaling pedestrians away, while his mom battled Morpho in the far-off distance. Looking back below, Jay watched as both his father and Shallow bursted out of the middle cart's roof and engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Here we go. Classic father and son team-up incoming. The little Spark said with a smirk before dropping his backpack and warping downwards to join the fight. With a hard and powerful swipe, Shallow swung his elbow blades down in a whirling formation, leaving Void to dodge and evade from their crimson-blue tips. In retaliation, the Spark activated his father's spear and countered one of the strikes. Wincing behind his battle mask, Void spun his blade and was able to throw Shallow off his footing. However, before Void could strike again, the large shark's eyes glimmered blue as another wave of cooling water arose within his bowels. Noticing this, Void turned to his side and activated a Novaroon shield, preparing for the devastating blow that was about to commence. Yet, before Shallow could take his shot, Jay suddenly portaled himself in and kicked the shark square in the nose, sending the large being yelping in pain and falling upon his back. Hey, Dad! Jay greeted as he awkwardly landed upon his rear. What the... Jay? Void asked with sudden shock while disengaging his runes. With a smirk, the little Spark stood back to his feet while Void retracted his mask. Looking down at his son, the older Spark gave a look of utter confusion, anger, and worry. What are you doing here? How did you get here? Why aren't you at school? The older Spark demanded in a rapid-fire set of questions, while throwing both of his arms out at his sides. The hell? Jay? Jada questioned, looking down from the rooftop she and Morpho were fighting upon. In that moment, she knew she had to get down there, and got the upper hand over the pyromaniac. With a firm grasp and punch, Jada used a powerful surge of focus energy and projectile warped her enemy back into a prison cell within the obsidian. As she did, Jada made sure to keep his gear and weapons of destruction at her location, resulting in 2 flamethrowers and a rocket pack with wings at her feet. Taking a breath and turning on her heel, Jada quickly warped back to the road below and resummoned her motorcycle to join back up with the chase. Let's not worry about that now. I'm here to help. Jay expressed with confidence as his body glimmered with a powerful wave of cosmic purple and blue energy. I'm gonna kinda worry about it. You shouldn't be here. You could seriously get hurt. Void retorted as his fatherly instincts began to take over. Not only were the city people in danger, but now his son was in the crossfire, determined to stay to his dismay. Don't worry, just tell me what to do. We can stop him together. Jay continued to beckon as Shallow slowly stood from behind and charged his blast attack once more, aimed directly towards the little spark. Jay, move! Void cried while reaching out and yanking his son by the arm. Whirling him around, Void put Jay behind himself, leaving the blast to only strike him alone. With a pained yell, Void used his body as an immediate shield, protecting his son, but at the cost of him falling back to the road below. Dad! Jay called in shock as he watched his father soar over his head and fall towards the moving streets below. However, before his head could splat against the road, Jada quickly drove up and caught Void by the back of his hoodie, swerving around in a catching donut as she did so. My god, Void, you alright? Jada asked with a panicked soul as her husband weakly crawled to sit up upon her seat. Not really. Just got hit with a lot of water and, oh yeah, our son is up there! The spark stated as both Jada and Sangston drove side by side, watching as the large vehicle went further off into the distance. Didn't we literally just have a conversation about him as to why he shouldn't do this? Jada asked with a worried tone as she began to speed up. We did, but he clearly didn't listen. Just like his mother used to do. Void expressed while giving Jada a stern side-eye. He's got my younger overconfidence and your will to help people no matter what. He's definitely our boy. Jada retorted with a nervous stare as both mother and father watched as their son turned to face Shallow. Yes, he is. Void replied in pain as he recalled upon his own younger and reckless days when stopping the glitched.
Nice job, Junior. Surely you left Daddy with a big old scar. Talk about being a helping hand.
Shallow taunted as he glared down upon the smaller Spark, who looked back up with a determined face on display. My dad is in your punching bag, Big Mouth! Get ready to head back to prison! Jay shouted with determination as he raised his fist forward with a surge of electricity mixed with fire.
Oh no! I'm so scared! Come here, you little runt!
Lunging forward, Shallow jumped in the air with both of his blades at the ready. As the massive animal neared Jay's position, the little Spark quickly warped out of the way and got right behind him upon landfall. Here comes the pain! The little boy called before raising his fist back and punching Shallow. As Jay's fist made impact, the small Spark wasn't greeted to his enemy falling over or grunting. Rather, he was met with the cold and burning sensation of his knuckles going full force against metal. Jay had focused all of his energy into that one warp dodge that he didn't have enough spare to expel from his hand right after, resulting in a world of hurt. Ah! Mother! God! Ow! Jay whined as he stumbled back and gripped his right hand that was now bruised upon the knuckles.
Oh, was that baby's first punch? How adorable.
Shallow called with a laugh before turning around and tail smacking Jay towards the driving half of the vehicle. Ugh! Jay wheezed out as he struggled to stand back to his feet. All while, the massive shark slowly approached in heavy, booming steps. Maybe, but that's not all I got for you. Get ready! Jay stated before throwing his left hand out and blasting a beam of electricity towards the shark, who simply tilted his head to avoid the attack.
Man, are you even trying? Or are you preparing for some sort of secret attack to throw me off?
Shiloh called out as Jay then wordly shot fire towards the shark that merely breezed up against his metal body.
Damn, kid. That one really burned.
The tiger shark cackled, all while Jay finally stood back to his feet with his fists raised. Better stand back! I'm a spark! Like my father! Jay stuttered as both Void and Jida, along with Commissioner Sankson, quickly made their way up upon the speeding cruiser.
Then show me! Give me something worth fearing!
Scowling with worry, Jay started to realize that he may have been in a little over his head, and that thought alone began to twist his stomach in a terrible way. The dawning reality that he could very well die on this road truly began to claw at his heart. That alone began to cause him to lose focus. Get back! The little spark roared to a mere whimper. Throwing a set of punches, Jay swung his fist from his left and then to his right, all in an attempt to hurt the big shark. But Shiloh was a master in this field of combat. Grinning, the big guy maneuvered around Jay as though he had been swimming around prey. The small spark, quickly growing tired, missed punch after punch, until at last, Shiloh let him get one hit in, resulting in another bruised hand. Ow! Jay squealed before he stumbled back upon his rear.
You know, you got guts, kid, but you're in way over your head.
Shiloh boasted before reaching down and picking the sparklet up by his throat. Jay! Both mother and father cried as they neared up upon the vehicle and leapt upwards to its top, Void using his hooks, while Jida blasted off her energized bike. Let him go, Shiloh! Jay's mother called as both parents began to rush the big shark, but stopped as he raised the small boy up to dangle above his jaws.
One more move and the runt loses his legs.
Shiloh threatened with a sinister stare that left them all in a Mexican standoff type position. Shiloh, release my son! You're better than this! Void tried to reason as his body burned with blue electricity.
You let me and my buddies go, and the boy gets to walk another day, yeah?
The shark retorted as he began to make munching motions towards Jay's feet with his teeth. During the heat of this moment, Jay found himself entering a small panic attack. Idiot, he told himself. Should have listened. The little spark's blood was rushing fast, his mind beginning to lose thought, as an almost survival-like instinct began to take him over. Jay's horns, they all began to burn. He couldn't explain it, but a sudden hot and stinging sensation began to arise at all 6 of his little blue horns. And then, a familiar sound. Vibrating together, Jay's horns began to shake and charge up with an energy blast, which caught the attention of everyone at the scene. Even Joby, who had been far off ahead, turned around and took in the sight of the scene, finally realizing herself that Jay was there too. Oh shit. She muttered with wide eyes as the tiny spark began to glow. Igniting to life with multiple colors, Jay began to hyperventilate as electricity and constellations emanated off his form, all while his horns continued to charge up with a blast. This was the first time the young spark had used this kind of ability, and everyone was unprepared for what it was about to entail. Ow! 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 Jay whined as the last phase of the burst charge commenced. Jay! Void cried with worry for his son, when at last, the sparkler released a powerful surge of energy that went beyond the capabilities of a spark's normal power pulse. A bright wave of white, consisting of multicolored electricity and tiny stars, engulfed the entirety of the city block, causing items to both warp and shatter apart at impact. The entire transport vehicle shattered apart at the 3 carts, going flying in all directions. Jay, Shiloh, along with Void and Jida, they were all suddenly warped somewhere else within the city from the blast. Cars were both thrown about and transported to who knew where. Building glass shattered, the road cracked, fire hydrants burst. Even nearby trees and sidewalks were thrown about and warped away to somewhere else in the city. During this eruption, the middle cart of the cruiser went sprawling across the road, while the other 2 ended up crashing into building sides. Both Sankson and Joby found themselves not being warped, but halting side by side as everything slowly went back to normal within the chaos. Matt! Younger Spark shouted as she rolled up to the side of his door. Stepping out with a shaken breath, Commissioner Sankson glanced to Joby, then to the damage all around, all while Gustavo leapt up and sat upon the good cop's shoulder. "Whoa, what the hell did your cousin just do?" he asked with instant panic as a wave of chaos began to course across the onlookers. "Where the hell did everyone else go?" Matt continued to ask, all while Joby looked around wildly in shock. However, before they could even ask another question, the sound of the middle cart rattling drew their attention away from it all. Bursting out of its turned-over side, rivets and bolts blasted out and clanked to the ground, all while something large, dark, and purple fought its way out. Drawing his gun, Sankson aimed it towards the turned-over vehicle while Joby stood her ground with a defiant stare. With a metal tear, the side to the transport vehicle's prisoner compartment was ripped open like a piece of paper, revealing a dark blackish-purple hand to the light. Pulling itself out of the forced open hole, a mass of melting steaming sludge arose and slowly took the form of a grotesque, humanoid-looking creature. Shaping itself to have long arms and a sunken-in chest, the creature that was Zagoff cracked its limbs to life with an audible and nasty set of pops. A pair of long and slender horns protruded from the sides of its skull. Finalizing its form, a humanoid mass of dark matter sludge glared upon both Joby and Sankson with a pair of beady white eyes and a sharp-toothed smile that said everything.
"Well, if it isn't two of my old friends. Been a long time."
Aiming his pistol, Sankson got ready to take on what was an old foe of his, while Joby transformed her right hand into a matter extractor. "I suppose you don't have those light matter blades I gave you last time?" Joby asked as Zagoff began to pull and tear himself out of the transport vehicle. "Kid, that was almost 4 years ago. No, I don't have them," Sankson retorted, recalling upon their first encounter with Zagoff. "Great. Looks like it's about to get messy then," Joby replied as the large glob of snot threw its arms out and roared. Opening his eyes with a pained grunt, Jay stared upwards towards the bright blue sky with hints of smoke drifting alongside it. Slowly getting up upon his hands and knees, the young spark gently took in the sights around himself and then felt his stomach drop. Whatever he had just done had warped himself, Shallow, and his parents to somehow be on the other side of the city. Pedestrians looked on with shock as cars and rubble now rested upon the roadway that sat next to a city riverstead. Off to his side, both Void and Jida lay injured on the ground, all while Shallow weakly stood up upon his hands and knees behind Jay. Green blood seeped from his nostrils as his metal body now lay dented and scratched. Police sirens and fire trucks wee-woos then began to ring out across the cityscape, for the damage that Jay had just caused spanned a block wide and had even affected the new area he had crashed into. Fire burned from the turned-over cars. The glass upon the nearby buildings had also been shattered, while even some innocent bystanders lay huddled on the ground, injured and in pain from Jay's massive warp.
"What the hell was that, you little freak?"
Shallow spat as he slowly stood to be upon his feet.
And here I thought I would do the most damage today.
He went on, before eyeing the water stream behind himself. I didn't know I could. I didn't mean to. Stop where you are! Jay weakly called as he fully stood and readied his fists. Without a second thought, Jay ran himself forward and attempted to punch Shallow once more, but the large shark simply rolled his eyes, sidestepped, and then raised his big leg out, tripping Jay and sending him crashing to the pavement below. Ah! The little spark squeaked as his hands slapped against the ground hard.
Great work, Junior. Really great work. Thanks to you, I can get off scot-free.
Looking up, Jay breathed in through his teeth and then pulled off his goggles to see straight. I could still stop him, he thought. There was still time to prove himself, that he was capable. No, I won't. Ah! Jay gasped out as Shallow smacked him back down with his tail.
You know, kid, I'd love to personally bite that fat head of yours off your body, but I gotta bounce.
Shallow stated in a cocky manner as he looked at both Void and Jida, slowly standing back up, with the accompanying lights of red and blue pulling up to the scene. With a pat on Jay's back, Shallow smiled down to the young spark before backing up towards the water. Raising both of his hands, the big shark flipped off everyone before him with both middle fingers, and then with one leap, the shark dove into the water with a mighty splash and simply disappeared below the waves. Slowly getting back upon his feet, Jay looked towards the rippling water with dread. No. He quietly stuttered out before turning around to see his parents and all those who had been looking on. The looks on his mom and dad's face was that of both relief for his safety and a mixture of uncertainty. They weren't sure how exactly to respond. Not only did Jay ditch class, he interfered with the mission, destroyed a lot of property, allowed Shallow to escape, and nearly died in the process. They weren't angry, they weren't disappointed. They were mixed, unsure of what to say or do in that moment. To both Void's and Jida's right, a yellow star-shaped portal opened with both Joby and Sangston walking through, covered in purple slime and looking absolutely exhausted. Within Joby's matter extractor swirled a fat piece of goop that held Zagoff's face in it. And he was anything but happy.
Let me out of here, you brat. You can't keep me in this thing. Do you know who I am? I'll find a way out. I'll come back and tear you apart. Do you hear me? I always come back.
Shut up. Joby angrily huffed with a smack to the extractor's glass, as both her and Sangston eyed Jay with a visibly angered expression. Looking from both his left and right, Jay felt a wave of unease and worry enter his soul. All eyes were on him, and not in a positive light. In that moment, it dawned upon him just how badly he had screwed up. Jay stuttered before shoving his hands into his coat pockets and looking to the ground in shame. I just wanted the help, he expressed, leaving Jida to sigh and Void to place his hands over his hips, thinking with a deep wave of emotions in his heart.